And Dave needed to sell this house in order to buy the other house. And so I bought the property via Subject To. There was an agent involved. I paid them a referral fee. And Dave, I gave $2,500. This house, 4-bed, 2-bath, that cash flows $3,000 a month on Airbnb, cost me $5,000. Or did it? A common question I get all the time is, Pace, why don't you need equity on some of these Subto deals? And today we're going to answer that question in a very quick explanation. Welcome to... YouTube might not want me to say the address, but I want to let you guys know that these houses we talk about, we physically own them. You can look up public record and see that we do. When I bought this property in 2019, pull it up on Zillow, you can see we closed escrow. I bought this property Subject To, which means I took over the payments on this house. And I didn't have to qualify for a mortgage. I didn't have to apply. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. The seller, Dave, was buying a brand new house about 2 miles away. And Dave needed to sell this house in order to buy the other house. And so I bought the property via Subject To. There was an agent involved. I paid them a referral fee. And Dave, I gave $2,500. This house, 4-bed, 2-bath, that cash flows $3,000 a month on Airbnb, cost me $5,000. Or did it? It didn't. Here's what it really cost me. $390,000 purchase price, roughly. I needed to borrow $30,000 for the renovation and the closing costs and paying Dave. That 30 grand actually came from Sonia. Shout out Sonia, my private money lender. If you guys are ever wanting to lend money to us, go to investwithpace.com. You guys can do a deal with us. And what happened is I used Sonia's money and I put her in second lien position. So the house didn't have equity at $390,000. And I added another $30,000 to it. So I was $30,000 underwater on this property in order to pay for the renovations, the garage thing, the stuff that you guys have seen on the inside of this property. And I did that so I could get into the property and buy cash flow. You guys need to understand something incredibly important. I didn't try and buy a house, I bought cash flow. I looked at this property, I said, wonderful location, great part of the city, single family home, single story. This thing's gonna cash flow $1,000, $2,000 a month. After I pay my mortgage and after I pay Sonia her payment every month, I'm making free cash flow. I was into the deal, no money. But the reality is I started in this deal with no equity at all. I was underwater. Here's what ended up happening. We got it up on Airbnb. It's been now on Airbnb for over 3 years, and this property has cash flowed me on average $3,000 every single month. So if I'm cash flowing $3,000 a month, I've owned it for 36 months. Let's do the math on that, Eric. What's the math on 36 months times $3,000 average? 36 times 3,000. That's $108,000. So I made in my pocket after the mortgage has been paid, after Sonia's been paid, utilities, cleanup, maintenance, all these types of things, insurance, taxes, all those types of things, I made $108,000. So out of that cash flow, I paid off Sonia. I also have made payments down towards the mortgage. And now this property today, 3 years later, this property now has $300,000 in equity. Funny thing is, a lot of people have equity just sitting in a property and they don't really use it. Whether this property had equity on day one, which it did not, and now here we are 3 years later, it cash flows the same amount of money. Even in the economic downturn, it's still cash flowing even a little bit better than it did last year. The property has equity. What has changed from the moment I had equity to the moment, the moment I didn't have equity to the moment I do have equity? Nothing has changed in the positive or negative aspects of this deal. It's always been a deal that cash flows $3,000 a month. So I look at people that go, what about equity? What about equity? And I say, yeah, what about equity? Equity comes, equity goes, but the cash will always flow. This property has always cash flowed and will always cash flow if I operate respectively, responsibly, efficiently, etc., and I take care of the property. Okay, so this property, come on in, let's show you guys around just for a second as I answer this question. This property has a Tesla charger, it's got a 3-car garage. People love this property so much that what ends up happening is the tenants come and stay in this property, sometimes for 2-3 months at a time. Last time I drove by this property, the tenants, the people that were staying in our Airbnb, actually, all right, they actually put up their own Halloween furniture, or not furniture, their own Halloween design in the front yard. I was like, what the heck? These people like basically moved in. But here's the thing. How do I use equity now that I have it? Am I gonna refinance and pull that equity out? Absolutely not, I'm not. This property has a this property has a 3.25% interest rate that I took over subject to. I'm not gonna refinance right now because the debt environment, the environment of going out and getting a new loan, pulling out my $300,000 in equity, that environment's not a great environment. The interest rates right now are 6, 7, and 8%. So the smart thing for me to do is keep that $300,000 in equity on the property, but what I'm actually doing with it is something powerful. I go to private money lenders like I did with Sonia originally, and I say, hey, Eric is actually the private money lender in this real story. And I say, Eric, I have a property on Sterling that has $350,000 roughly of equity. I need to borrow against that. Will you give me a $300,000 loan and I'll secure you against the Sterling property that has now equity? So I can take your $300,000 and go buy a 256 unit deal in Springfield, Illinois. Eric says, yes, no problem. You have equity on Sterling, so he gives me a $300,000 check. I create a note and deed of trust in second lien position on this property. If you don't know what a note and deed of trust is, or even second lien position, go back to the YouTube channel, type in Pace Morby second lien position, Pace Morby note and deed of trust, and it will teach you exactly what that means. So Eric gives me 300 grand, secures it against this property, right? Now he's secure, he has a buffer. Worst case scenario, I die and I can't pay back that $300,000. Well, Eric can get his $300,000 out of this house. And that is the powerful thing about having equity. It's not that the equity makes this a good deal or a bad deal. It's that equity gives me the ability to go borrow and go buy more stuff. And so I just bought a $16 million, 41 buildings, 256 unit multifamily in Springfield, Illinois, without having to go and do a syndication, without having to go and go get a loan. I bought that on seller finance, and Eric and Angela, my private money lenders, leaned money against properties like this to allow me to borrow money and go buy another property. Equity is important, but equity does not make or break a deal. Understand that. Equity is important, but it does not make or break a deal. In fact, today, Eric and I are gonna go drive down to Santan Valley and we're gonna buy another deal just like this. Don't you hate when you eat something and then you're burping the whole time you're talking? Eric and I are gonna go down to Santan Valley today and buy another deal just like this and show you guys the process in our Real Deal series. So if you guys are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please make sure you do so. Properties like this have been on the channel for 3 years. We've shown you the evolution. We walked through originally what the plan was here at this property. For you guys, if you go back to the original Real Deals, the first episode of the Real Deal series, there was a big pantry here, there was a weird door, this whole thing was completely different, there was a big entertainment system. This property went through a full renovation, and all of it was paid for by Sonia, my private money lender. Sonia was paid off by my Airbnb tenants. This whole entire thing I own, no money out of my own pocket. Literally no money out of my own pocket. And now I'm playing games with the equity to go buy more multifamily. So you guys wanna learn how to do more of this, please go to the link down below. We do have mentorship spots open in some of the states in the United States, not all of the areas like Atlanta and some other places are closed out. But if you go in the link down below, you guys can have an opportunity to see what that looks like to join our mentorship called Subto.com. So the biggest challenge here in this house is that this took 3 years to build $300,000 in equity, and you have to be patient. We're gonna talk about that in future videos, so stay tuned. On your way down and making a comment of something you have a question about on this video, please make sure you like, you subscribe, share this with somebody you know. Share this with another real estate agent that goes, man, if I have a house that has no equity, somebody like Pace Morby can buy it sub 2. Go to the channel, learn all there is to know about sub 2, and we'll see you in the next video.